We'll analyze all the new details out on that independent autopsy in just a moment. But first, Don Lemon, my colleague Don Lemon, is standing by in Ferguson with some breaking news, because for the very first time, we are hearing the other side of the story. Don.
Absolutely. Over the weekend, it came to my producer's knowledge that there was a radio interview out there, allegedly with a friend of the officer, Darren Wilson. Apparently, she spoke to Darren Wilson before all of this became the big deal that it is, and he gave her his account. She went on to a local radio station and gave her account of exactly what he told her, again, allegedly. And here's what it says. It says, a source with knowledge of the investigation, this is what we have learned, into the Ferguson, Missouri shooting of Michael Brown, says that the account of a caller to St. Louis radio station KTFK matches the account of Officer Darren Wilson as to what happened at the time of the shooting, Brooke. The caller to the radio station, identified only as Josie, told listeners she knew Officer Wilson's side of the story in detail. She said she laid out Wilson's account, and I'm going to summarize it below. We'll get the audio for you just a little bit later on in CNN, so be patient. Here's what she says. He says the boys were walking in the street. He rolled the window down and told them to get out of the street. He may have called for backup when he pulled over. He heard the call for the strong-arm robbery and saw the teens carrying something that might have been cigars. He pulled over, and when he tried to get out of the car twice, he was pushed back into the car by Michael. Michael then punched him in the face, and Darren reached for his gun. Michael grabbed the gun and at one point had the gun pushed against Darren's hip, so Darren pushed the gun away and the gun went off. Michael and his friend ran, and Darren got out of the car and pursued as is protocol. He told them to freeze, and Michael and his friend turned around. Michael started to taunt him and said he wouldn't shoot him. Meaning he wouldn't shoot Michael. Michael then bum rushed him and started coming at him full speed, so Darren started shooting. She said that Darren really thinks he was on something. He said the final shot was in the forehead, and he fell 2 or 3 feet in front of the officer. Now, the source with detailed knowledge of the investigation into the shooting told CNN that this account is accurate. The source declined to add any more detail, and again, we are going to have the audio of this radio interview coming up here on CNN, but here's the bottom line. I want to this again. The caller into the radio station, into KTFK, says that the officer here, Darren Wilson, gave her the account. She gave the radio station the account. A source with detailed knowledge of the investigation into the Ferguson, Missouri shooting of Michael Brown says that the account of a caller to St. Louis radio station KTFK matches the account of Officer Darren Wilson as to what happened at the time of the shooting. The caller to the radio station, identified, Brooke, only as Josie, told listeners she knew Officer Wilson's side of the story. In detail, she laid out Wilson's account, which I have just summarized for you. There you have it, Brooke.
This is what makes stories like these, Don Lemon. As you know, you've been in journalism for years, as have I, and it's, you know, there are so many sides of a story, and I think hearing this account, hearing multiple different eyewitness accounts, right, from Dorian Johnson, the friend that was in the street, to the woman who Michaela spoke with this morning, who took the cell phone video. Everyone has their opinion, and it'll be interesting taking that account and talking to a forensic pathologist, you know, after we've heard the X, Y, and Z from Dr. Michael Baden this morning, who is that, you know, very famous pathologist. If what you said or what this source says jives with what they found as far as bullet wounds, but, you know, and let's also make the point, though, quickly, if they're also alleging, they bring up that he could be on something, which brings up toxicology reports. Can I just ask quickly? And again, we don't even know if that's pertinent or not, but that has been performed, but the results, they're not in. They're not public, correct?
They're not in, right. They're not in, and it won't say anything about what happened during the shooting, the bullets or any of that. It may go to something else, what may have preceded this. But here's the interesting thing, because as I said, my producer and I got knowledge of this interview. Someone emailed Someone emailed it to me, and we had been wanting to get it on the air, and people were saying, why haven't you gotten that interview, that account on the air? The reason is because this is second removed. The witnesses that we have been getting on the air, for the ones that have been corroborating what the witnesses have been saying about Michael Brown, those have been first-hand accounts of people where we can ask them in their own opinion. This is a second-hand account. This is a witness removed, right? So we're not getting it from the officer. She is saying that the officer, who is a friend of hers, told her this account, and then she went on to another program and gave that account. And then once we got corroboration from sources and from individuals that were with close knowledge to the investigation, saying that is the account that we have gotten, sources that we think are credible enough to put it on the air. That is why it is on the air now. We wanted to make sure to vet it properly, and so again, this is according to a source who is close to the investigation.